Hello, welcome back. As you can see, the gearbox is cleaned. It is as clean as possible, and I'm fitting back the the wheels and the motor and the brushes and the power pickups. Now the brushes, they came apart, but you have to fiddle them on a little bit onto the springs. There's a tiny smaller end on the springs, and that goes over the small end of the brush, and you have to fiddle it on there a little bit, and you can screw it in place. You'll see what it is when you do it. Now, fitting the wheels back on, the axles, you can see that this side and this side counterbalance to the piston rod, the connection rod. This one is smaller than this one. This is the rear and this is the front. If you want to turn it around, hey, be my guest. But we have to put them in, and that will be a little bit fiddly. I kept them connected to each other. What you do is you slowly push the brushes in and then slide the wheel over and slowly put them in like that. Then you can do the other side. Put the brushes in. This side is not going too well. Now it's in. The wheels are in, the axles are in. How they are aligned, it's not a big of a deal now, just yet. Then we have to put the cover back on. But first of all, we're gonna put some grease here where the axles go on these little plastic bearings. I'm using the same grease as I did with the little locomotive. Just a dab there, a dab here, here, and I'm doing it off camera, of course, and here. There are some hairs in there, so that's enough. And there is a 1 here in the molding, and I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, there is a 1 there as well, and 1 meets 1, and it goes on like that. That's it. And now of course I have my screwdriver dirty with grease. So again, when you put in these screws in plastic, be aware of the fact that you don't tighten them up. You feel where they are, where the grooves are, and then you put it in. Don't go and whack them in like an idiot. Find the threads, that's what I want to say. Find the threads, and when you have the threads, then you can put the screws in. These big ones, you can find them with your hand, with your fingers. And it's very important that you always locate the threads in plastic, because it's just plastic, and when you can cut another groove in there, that's not a problem. A third one will also be not a problem maybe, but the fourth, you strip the threads out and you have a thing that is broken, or you can't tighten the screw anymore. So, as you can see, I left one pin out, so there are only 2 pins here. And now we have to return the motor, but we have to solder some wires onto here, because we want to digitize the locomotive and we want to be able to control the motor with the decoder, and for that we have to do some wires on here. So that will be the next step. So, motor wires. Now these wires came from a home cinema set. They were speaker wires, and they will do nicely. Just take a little, just strip the end off. Do it off camera, it's easier. Like so. Now we're gonna tin them up. Do it on camera, that's better. I'm gonna tin the motor connections. I'll just use the gearbox as a I've got all these hairs coming from everywhere. Oh. Got some solder on here. There's a nice greasy smell here. This one as well, as close to the gear case as possible. And now I'm gonna solder the wires on. Now I have a black wire. Sorry. I'm gonna solder it to the black side of the motor. And I'm gonna do it in this direction. You see this little notch here? That goes to the bottom of the gearbox. So the wires have to go in this direction. I'm gonna put the other one on. Cannot see what I'm doing. Yeah. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna snip this excess off here. I'm gonna shorten them. Like this. And of course I wired it the wrong way, so I have to do it again, but that's not a problem. First I'm gonna snip this one off. It's off. Always when you try to do it in front of a camera, I still cannot get quite used to it. Yeah. It's good. Give them a little pull that they are okay. Now we have to stick the motor back into the box, the gearbox. And because of the fact that we have cut it off, it's not gonna make any contact with the post. This connection here, it's not gonna make a connection. What we do have to take care of is we have to align the wheels. They're not aligned yet, so we're gonna do that. And I'll just pop the motor on one side a little bit higher so that it's not engaging in the gear. I'll put them both in the same orientation, and then you just press the motor back into place. And when that's done, the motor, the wheels are in the right alignment, and you can put the cover back on. And we have to, first of all, we have to put some grease on the gear. Put a nice dab on there so that it's nice and greasy. Don't overdo it, it's not necessary. That's that. Put that aside. We're gonna put the wires through. We're gonna what we were gonna do is, what I wanted to do was, I have to cut some plastic out. I'm gonna show you. Here and here. That makes a little extra opening, and there we can feed the wires through. Like so. It's always a little bit tricky. It should be okay. No, it's not. Of course not. Why should it be okay? In one go. Have to come back. One more. So, I drilled 2 holes. And I'll show you where. I haven't test fitted it, but it should work. I did it once before. Here, in the corner, there, and there. You can see them. There. And there. So one wire goes to one hole, and the other wire goes to the other hole. That's the thing with 2 wires and 2 holes. And now you are able to put it gearbox back on. And you can see that it is flat square against the the top is flush, there's no springiness in there, so that's okay. This gearbox is now done, wired for digital control. The lead weight. So the lead weight will have to wait a little bit more. So, gearbox is done. We're gonna use these two to connect the wires, and we're gonna test that as soon as possible. As I mentioned, I took the lead weight off and I placed the lead weights in, I made them in these blocks. How did I do that? Well, I cut it to a certain size, and in the case of these boxes I made it that they would roughly fit in there, but I just leave it long, and then I hammered it with a hammer on a piece of metal. I hammered it into the right thickness and the right size. So this is actually more compact, and if you were to put these blocks back together, it would be around a 3/4 size of the original lead weight. So now I can fit it down there and down here, and I will screw this down with these two, at least with the original screws that were used for the lead. So why did I took it out? Well, that's easy. As you can see, if I put this back on, and I will go out a little bit like this, as you can see, there is nice room for a lot of stuff down there. So my horn can fit in there, and so on and so on. And the decoder can fit in there, obviously without this box. The decoder can go in there, everything can go in there. And the meaning, what I want to do is to be able to just push the little button here and click this off, so that you can access the electronics and the servo for uncoupling and so on and so on. That can all be in here. The Arduino can be in there, everything, most of the parts can be in there. The power supply, the buck converter can be in here, everything will be underneath this motor cage. And that is why all the lead, I wanted to get rid of it, and I thought of putting it down here. So, and it makes for a nice and low center of gravity locomotive. Thank you for watching. Press here to subscribe. Press here to see another video in this playlist concerning this build. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.